Boys, what's happening? We are live. This is episode what episode are we at? Number 7 of the rebranded podcast, the Deconstruction Podcast, and we changed the name. It's a very fitting name for what we're doing, right? We're deconstructing, we're breaking down, we're analyzing topics that we're going through, thinking about from the inside, success strategies in the construction industry. So this is what this podcast is all about, and that's what the rebrand is about. So how you guys doing?
Let's go. I'm excited.
Okay, so there's a few topics we want to go through today. First one, and I'll kick it off here. So as you guys know, obviously in the last couple of weeks, I've been getting a few quotes for some work around the house from some arborists, tree service companies. And so I called a few companies, got a few quotes, and I'm disappointed that we're still talking about this in 2024 going into 2025. So one of the quotes I got, I'm actually going to pull it up here for those watching. If you're listening, I'm going to hide the company name obviously here, but so I don't know if you can see this. So God bless you if you can decipher this handwritten quote here that I got. Now, the reason why, to me, this is very disappointing because this particular guy who gave me this quote, he was one of my favorites, right? He was very good. He seemed very knowledgeable. Seemed like he would do a great job. But the simple fact that he gave me a quote like this, handwritten, that I cannot even read like 70% of the words on this quote. That's why I went with someone else. And if he had sent me a quote that was like actually proper on the computer that I can actually read, I 100% would have went with him. So yeah, very disappointing. And this actually wasn't even the lowest price quote either, right? This is like a real life example of why contractors need to send professional quotes. Like this gentleman literally lost a job because of how he gave me a quote. So I want to touch on this topic which is essentially sales. This is how I think about it, right? And I think this is a topic that is way often overlooked in the construction industry is sales. Like a lot of these guys that I talk to, they don't realize they're engaging in a sales process. When someone picks up the phone to call your company, you send them a quote, like you're engaging in a sales process. And they're not taking that part of the business seriously. So let's jump into that. Charlie, what are your thoughts on this? Like, why is this still happening in 2024, and what can be done to improve this?
I'll start by saying, like, the saddest part of all this is I remember you telling me about this guy, and there's not a doubt in my mind that he's a great tradesman. He's probably really good at what he does. And, you had a good feeling when you met him. And then the unfortunate part is that he lacked the professionalism, right? So for you to receive a paper quote like that you can't even read, this guy is now missing out on a potential client and potential future referrals when all he had to do is just, write up a proper quote on a software or however he did it and send it out. So why is it still happening? I think that saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't think it's correct, but there are some old dogs out there. And I think a lot of them just either haven't had the chance to learn the new tricks. They haven't been introduced to the new tricks. And there's not a doubt in my mind that if you showed this guy and spent some time with him and showed him what's out there, his business model would change overnight. Not only his professionalism would skyrocket through the roof, but his efficiency would skyrocket as well. He would get more quotes out, go to more clients, and have more referrals, and business would be booming for him. So I think that's partly it. And another reason is I think a lot of these guys are just very stubborn. They're just set in their ways, and they think their way is the right way. And in most cases, they're completely incorrect. So
yeah, and I think it's one of these things where you don't recognize the impact of something until it hits you in the face, right? And hopefully this is an example, like real life example. This is literally a quote I got last week where hopefully someone is seeing this. And if you're still doing paper quotes, like, you still get quotes sometimes by a text message, paper quotes, like handwritten stuff. And hopefully anyone listening that is still getting or creating quotes in this manner recognizes that you're literally losing out on a lot of business by doing this, and it's very easy to change that. There's a lot of very simple softwares, and obviously we own JobTable. It's a great option, but even if you don't, there's a countless number of really good softwares to use. So, Johnny,
Anything is
touch on
better.
this. Anything is better, 100%. Johnny,
I'm taken back as well that in 2024 this is still happening, right? Like, look, I think we touched a little bit on this in our last episode. Um, 4 years ago, and being a tradesman myself, and knowing what I want to see and how it should be done. Not to say that we do it is always correct or incorrect, but we come from the commercial industrial world, right? And I talk to a lot of tradesmen. They always ask, "Oh, how is it? I'd love to get into that industry." Well, it all starts with professionalism, right? In 2024, if you're still going to somebody's house and handwriting a quote like that, we all make fun of the doctor's prescriptions, right? The doctor's prescription, you take it to the pharmacist, you can't even read what it says, and that's what's happening on that quote that guy provided for you. So I really can't understand to a lot of guys that still do that, and they still think that that's fine. But like you said, Costa, that's your right. You go to look at a job, you go to assess it, and then you provide them a quote. If you're sending them a quote through a text message, right, a little blur, your hand that 70-80% of it the person can't read, to accept you when they're getting 3-4 other quotes. What's going to happen? Whoever presents themselves the best, essentially, when you're selling your service, you're selling yourself. So, reflection of yourself and your company, because to get the job is one. Now, every homeowner, every client, the next thing is, well, if he's sending me a quote like this, is he going to show up on time? What's his work, right? And I think those are hand in hand. So just to touch base on it quickly, just to sum it up, if somebody's sending a quote like that still in 2024, please understand it's a reflection of you and your company. You have to stop doing it. Get a software, get something easy that works for you and your company, you and your dynamic, where when you go somewhere, you can blast out a quote just as fast as you can handwrite something, and it's going to give you that layer of professionalism.
Just to add to that, just one more thing, because this really resonates with me. This is probably the most important thing that I think about is, I don't know if that guy has a family, a wife, kids or not, but I'm assuming he probably does, right? And I know you guys are on the same page as me, but when I'm done work, my first priority is to get home to my wife and kids. The more time I spend with them, the happier I am, the better off I am. So I just think of that guy, and it's not only for quotes, but imagine the invoices that he's also doing once he completes a job. The amount of wasted time that's going into this process, that's taking away not only from his business, but taking away from his family. That to me, that's where the buck stops.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And so I'm curious to hear from both of you, obviously, directly own a very successful business. So, I've spoken to thousands of contractors at this point, and one topic that is never discussed or brought up is sales. So, and this is the, again, first industry that I've come across where sales is not, in most industries that I'm used to, sales is like the focal point of any business, right? I think that lack of sales kills a business. So when you don't like talk about sales, you don't focus on sales, I think that could be very detrimental. So what I'm getting at is, from a contractor, back to the sales process. I think this is a very overlooked topic that is not discussed enough with contractors. And it's a skill set that I feel like a lot of contractors don't focus on, right? You're focused on your craft, whatever it is. You're an electrician, a plumber, you're perfecting your craft. But in my opinion, one of the most important skills for a business owner, an entrepreneur, is the skill of sales. So why is it such an overlooked topic in construction? Do you guys, first of all, do you agree with that? And if so, like, why is it such a, such a far gone topic?
Go ahead.
For me, I would say, look, construction is still a very old school kind of environment with why people are still doing things like that, because in any other industry that has evolved, you'll never get, industry, you'll never get a quote like that, right? It just doesn't happen, right? Not even your mechanic will give you a quote like that. And I think it all comes down to, when they're a craft at what they do, whether, they're electrician, a roofer, that's their craft. So everybody feels that by going with them, it's but fail to see, like I said, you have to sell yourself. You have to sell your company, right? It's all about first impressions. It's all about your image, how that client feels with you, right? And if there's still an estimate that goes into their sales thought, right? What's their sales process? There is no sales process. I'm going to go look at this job. I'm going to provide them a quote, and I'm either going to do the job or I'm not. But they don't think about how many jobs you look at. How many did you win? How many didn't you win? What is your percentage of winning a job? What is your percentage of losing a job, right? And then you break that down into categories. Okay, I'm winning 50% of my jobs, let's just say. Okay, why didn't I win the other 50%? Did you get feedback from the client? Did you follow up? Was it the quote that you provided? Was it the way you presented yourself, right? There's so much to that, again, touching from the last episode, they're so stuck in working in the business that they never take a step back to work on the business. How do I better myself, even as an individual, right? This is where you need to break down yourself to become you do, right? Just as an electrician apprenticeship, right? Why do you go through an apprenticeship? Because you're learning so that you get better and better at your craft. I know electricians that have been electricians for 30, 40 years, and they still tell me to today, right? Every day I'm learning something new. You should apply the same, right? Your business is your biggest asset. Invest in yourself, invest in your business, because impression to that client, you never know who that client is and what door that is going to open for you and your business. That's the message I across to all these people.
That's a good point. And one thing you said, Johnny, that is so key is there's such a lack of just information, basic information and data. Like you said, right? Like, how many quotes did you send out last quarter? Out of those quotes, how many were won? And to me, that sounds so basic. And maybe it's because, like, back to Job Table again. This is not a pitch to Job Table, but you go into Job Table, you see right in your dashboard, it's like the percent of quotes that were won. Right. So that's such important information that's right in front of your face. And back to your point, it's such an easy one to decipher and improve on. It's like, if you're only winning 20% of your quotes, that's an immediate red flag. It's like, okay, what's going on? These ones I didn't win, did I send them all with like chicken scratch handwriting? So it's very easy to pick apart and improve that percentage just with having very basic data and information in front of you. And when you think data, a lot of time I can see contractors getting very overwhelmed by just that word data, but it's very, very basic, and there's really nothing that you have to do to accumulate this data other than just use a simple software. So sorry, Charlie, I wanted to mention that because I thought that was a good point.
No, absolutely. I was just going to say quickly, I honestly don't think there is a sales process whatsoever. I honestly don't even believe they look at it as a process. I think most of these guys, specifically the one that gave you the quotation you held up before, he's probably an amazing tradesman. He's, he's constantly working, like Johnny said, on the tools. He's running around like a chicken with his head cut off. So for him, he's just putting it together. He's not even thinking about your reaction to the quotation, right? The fact that you didn't call him back, he probably thought, oh, maybe my price was too high. There's literally no thought going into that. There's no data collection. There's no data analysis. He probably has no idea how many quotes has gone out in the last month and how many of them were accepted out of the amount that went out, right? He's not keeping track of any of that. Why? Because number one, he's set in his old ways. Number two, to a fault that's not his. It's just like he's literally like a chicken running around with his head cut off. He doesn't know any better. He's just, trying to keep his business afloat. So those are two main things. Also, the second part of the sales process, are you following up on the quotes, right? With our plumbing company, mine and Johnny's, we use iPlumb for everything. So we send a quote. If we don't hear back from somebody in 5-6 days, we have automatic reminders that are sending emails to the clients, and that's on default, right? That's on autopilot. So even if we forget about it, our customer's getting a follow-up email. Hey, we haven't heard back from you. Is there any questions I can answer for you? Please feel free to reach out. And then, we have alerts that let us know. Because again, like you've always said this, Costa, like the sales process is a long process. It's not just writing up a quote and handing it off to somebody. There's the follow-up involved, closing the sale. So to that guy, right, who's running around, all he has to do is take the time. And what's the answer I get from all of these contractors like him will tell you, I don't have the time. I can't. Maybe call me in a month. Maybe, you can show me what job table is, or you call him in a month, call me in another month. I'm too busy. I own and operate a plumbing company. There is never any time. There's never going to be any time. You're going to be busy next week. You're going to be busy next year. You have to make the time. And that small sacrifice of time that you make will end up benefiting you for the rest of your career. It's just a matter of taking that dive.
So true. And you took kind of the next flow of the sales process. What I was just going to say is the follow-up. Right. So back to this real life example, I got 3 quotes last week. You know how many followed up? 0. I worked on, obviously, so I was proactive. But if I wasn't, none of those contractors would have got my business because there was 0 follow up. So again, like the amount of money being left on the table by so many contractors is truly mind boggling, in my opinion. And back to your point about simple follow-ups is it's already done. Like, back to, I speak to so many job table clients who tell me very frequently, it's like, look, I've sent out a quote that I totally forgot about because of these automated emails that get sent out, that client responded back to me. So like the conversation got re-engaged because of a simple follow-up that you don't even have to think about. It's just being done for you. So again, very, very simple things to implement, but very few people are doing them. And that kind of brings me to kind of the next thing that I'm thinking about is because of the lack of professionalism in a lot of cases, and I don't want to paint every contractor in this bucket because there's so many amazing contractors and businesses who are running very efficient, tight ships, who are doing all these things already, which include like most of our clients at Job Table. But I could confidently say pretty objectively that a good majority of contractors are not doing this, kind of still stuck in their old ways. So when I see that, I think that's such a huge opportunity for a lot of contractors who want to focus on this part of the business that can outpace and outgrow a lot of these contractors that are still stuck in the old ways, because that's the future. Like, you've got to do these things. You got to know how to communicate and engage with your clients, and actually follow a sales process, which all of this is essentially sales. So
imagine him, adopting the follow-up method, right? But still using handwritten quotes. Johnny, how many quotes did we do last month? Just like off the top of your head. Yeah, right? Okay, so north of 30, 40 quotes, right? And Matt, like, how is this guy even tracking these quotes? Like, let's say this guy's a pretty active contractor, he's busy. Like, does he have a pile of fucking carbon copies on his desk that he's going to and he's sifting through them? Like, oh, who? Like, he probably doesn't even know which is which, who's who. So with the simple software, with the touch of one button, you have access to every single quote that you've sent out, when they were sent out, whether they're approved, whether they're pending. So not only for if it's not just a follow-up, it's the organization of your business, right? Having everything kind of like neatly packaged into one area where you can manage and focus on everything.
And I don't know here, but it, it's the brand, it's the image, right? If you go there and you give a quote like that, you're not following up, right? How do you expect somebody to give you the? A lot of times, a lot of homeowners, and I want to say more because a lot of times some of these people are desperate for a repair or they just need something done, and a lot of people get business like that. Let's be honest, right? You have a leak, you called any plumbing company, they just came, professional, not professional, just fix it, please. But the problem is that how many times, both of you guys, right? How many times you guys, everybody knows a contractor and they speak about another company. It's like, oh yeah, they're killing it, or oh wow, the way they grew, like that's crazy, But why? It's because they're seriously, right? They have, from a quote, the client's information is stored. If that client calls them 3 days later, they recognize the number, right? If they get the job and they say, okay, I'm going to be there Monday, right? This is my biggest pet peeve with contract. Like I said, I just built my house, and being a contractor, like I had contractors at my house saying, oh, you don't understand how I am. It's like, buddy, I run a company, man. I almost 30 guys, don't tell me, like, I get it. But when you tell somebody Monday, 8 a.m. and somebody, stays home, to open the door for you or make sure you're there, and you don't show up at 8 a.m. and they're calling you and you're not picking up, like it all how this is going to operate. Professionalism is everything. If you got a guy that shows up, they say they're going to be there at 8 a.m. to quote the job, they're there at 7:58 outside your house, right? Boom. Number one, fuck, this guy's on time. Number two, he comes, he looks at everything, he's professional, whether he took off his shoes, he wore shoe guards, something, right? Friendly guy, comes in, tells you what the problem is. Yeah, this is what needs to be done. Don't worry, I'll provide you a quote within 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, midday, he sends you the quote, professional quote, you can read it, there's follow-ups, the client calls him, he picks up, hey, oh, I had a question. He answers the questions properly. The client, hey, I can start next Monday. He shows up next Monday. Guess what happens? If that client needs something, right? Or their cousin or their brother or their mother, or, who knows, maybe they work for a builder, right? And now all of a sudden they need something. You never know what door is going to open. Right? You got to treat every client like this could potentially be your biggest client. This could be your big break. And I never understand why, contract a quote, you try hey, how did you arrive at this number? Hey, I thought we spoke about this. Or it doesn't say that you're doing this like we talked about on site. Sometimes you can't even get them on the phone. So to me, I always say the initial with that client is that's how they're going to perceive your company. That's essentially the key to growth. You want to grow, you want to have a successful company. It's all on the way you carry yourself, right? You're not going to walk in to a financial meeting, right? In you're under bedhead, right? People are going to look at you like, what's this guy doing? Right? And it's the same when it comes, yes, I understand as a contractor, we work in a more rough environment, work boots, we're a little bit more dirty, we're blue collar guys, right? But in the end of it, carry yourself in front of the client, how you present your quote, how you present your scheduling. When you tell somebody you're going to be there, you're there. When somebody needs to call you, you're answering your phone. It's everything. It's everything. So for any contractor out there that feels like they're stuck, why am I not growing? What did I do wrong in business? The first thing you got to do is you got to look at your processes, right? You got to look at, are you standing behind your work? because professionalism is everything.
Yeah, one last thing to add to
he,
that, just to
yeah.
Johnny's point quickly. I think Johnny hit the nail on the head there, and I'll just add, think about a guy walking into your house to quote your job, and he smells like alcohol, or he's not clean, right? That's a representation of himself and his company. It's no different for the quotation that he gives you or the invoice that he sends you, right? And then beyond that, he looks at the job, he's getting ready to quote it, he's going to his truck and he's handwriting this quote in his truck, right? Think about the amount of time wasted when, or he might wait till he goes home and handwrites them all and then delivers them the next day. However these guys do it, I have no idea, but it's not the right way to do it, and it's got to change.
And John, you touched on something very important, and we all know this, but Johnny, I think you're the man when it comes to this. Is you got to, most people chase the check and not the relationship, right? So why are you so good at that, the relationship building and like the sales, and what are some tips or strategies that you think others can apply from your experience?
It was said to me, and it really resonated with me. It was said to me years ago. Very successful contractor, one of the biggest probably contractors in the city. He said it to me when I was just talking to him about business and trying to get some insight. He said, don't chase the relationships. The money will follow, right? And a lot of, because, you're reliable, friendly, if you're a good person, and they know you're in a specific business, you're going to stand out to them, right? If you create a relationship with somebody, and like us, we're plumbers. So if I create a relationship with you, Costa, I've never met you before, and you find out I'm a plumber, and it's like, wow, this guy's a great guy. He's become almost, somebody I can rely on. When you have an issue, or somebody around you has an issue with like a plumbing issue, what's the first person that's going to come to mind, right? The person is almost like a friend, right? Somebody that, they're friendly. I can call them. I can joke around with them. I can tell them my problem. They can put me at ease, right? Because a lot of times too, like, you've done it with me, Costa. You've called me and you're freaking out. It's like, man, I got water in my ceiling. Okay, what's going on? This and this going on. Okay, relax. Just go downstairs, turn this off. I'll have a guy there in an hour, 2 hours. What happens off that, just that conversation? You get a sense of calmness. Like, okay, somebody has my back, right? And that to sales, right? Let's go back to this arborist, right? He gave a handwritten quote, never followed up, right? If the professionalism started with the quote, then it started with the follow-up, right? And the guy was friendly. What happened? If lightning strikes your tree, if the neighbor's tree falls down, who's the first person that comes to mind? That, right? That came there to quote something. You didn't know him before that from a hole in the wall, but he came there. He was friendly. He put you at ease. You picked up. He answered all your questions, all your follow-ups. That's how your business grows. It grows from you. Like that. That's what I tell everybody. Like, I know that are great tradesmen, but they're just not personable. And when you're not to deal with them. It doesn't matter whether you're in finance, whether you're in, construction, it doesn't matter, right? If you have to be in contact with somebody, that you want to personable. You want to have some type of relationship. You want to have a trust in that person, right? So, if you're calling somebody and they're telling you, yeah, I'm going to be here on this day at this time, and picking up their phone and 8 o'clock hits when they said that they were going to be there, and you're standing around, you've lost half a day at work, guess what happens, right? A week later, somebody's going to run into a situation where they need that type of tradesman, and what's the first thing that pops into your head? I'm not referring this guy. This guy, he was more of a headache to deal with, right? I already had a headache, and he gave me more of a headache when he's supposed to be the one to solve the headache, right? So that's why relationship, the way you present yourself, professionalism, it's everything, man. That's what makes business. You want to be a good tradesman? The skill is 50%. The other 50% is how you carry yourself. I can't put it any simpler than that.
I love the passion, Jimmy. I love the passion. And so this is something that both of you touched on. And Charlie, I'll bring it to you. But
Yeah.
why do you think the whole idea of scheduling, right? The concept of scheduling in construction, it's kind of expected that a contractor will never be on time, right? It's literally the expectation, right? You're doing work. They say they're going to be there at 8. You know, as a homeowner, it's like, yeah, this guy's going to probably be here in the afternoon, right? Why is this an expectation in this industry? And what can be done to change that?
I'm going to tell you, I just want to give you a real life example first of what you just asked Johnny and why he's so good at creating the relationships, and a real life example of something that we did, because I think it's so important to anybody that's listening that's in the first few years of their companies. In the first three to 4 years, I would say, of starting iPlum, we had 3 general contractors that we were doing, pretty steady work for. And over 3-4 years, they each took their turn to move into new offices and rebuild their offices. Me and Johnny roughed in and finished and supplied all the labor, materials, fixtures for all 3 of those offices, and we didn't charge them a dime. It just meant me and him, material wasn't too much. It was, something we could afford at the time. And it just cost us time. We did it on weekends, during the week after hours, but we did whatever we could and we gladly did it. And the point of this is that, number one, you might look at it like, well, you guys are just kind of sucking up, kissing ass to get in their good books. And partly look like you want to show, a sign of good faith that, we want to have all your work. We want to be, your number one guys. But the reason why Johnny's so good at this is because he's authentic about it. He's not taking you out to lunch. He's not going golfing with you. Like Johnny has became, and myself too, we've become actual friends with countless general contractors. So I think that's the ingredient that's missed in a lot of times. I think in most cases you have these guys trying to build relationships and they can feel phony and they can smell it from a mile away. The authenticity is everything. Really caring for these people, because in return, they're going to care for you and they're not going to want to go to anybody else once that relationship's built. To answer your question about scheduling, that's one of the most fucking frustrating things that I have ever gone through building my own house. Johnny went through it. He promised me that I was going to feel the pain. I told him, no, it's not going to happen. Sure enough, I did. And it wasn't because of any of the commercial guys that I use. We use a lot of commercial contacts to build our own homes. It was the residential guys. That stuff doesn't fly in commercial and in industrial. It really doesn't, let alone mid-rise and high-rise. These are 2 completely different, like, stratospheres, ball games, whatever you want to call it. In residential, for some reason, it's just like, it's a norm. I think the reason is, in all fairness, you do have trades like bricklayers, siding guys, roofers. So their work days kind of depend on the weather, right? So you do have that for those guys. As for plumbers, electricians, tapers, finish framers, right? The interior guys, not framing the house. There's no excuse. Honestly, the common denominator that I see out of all these guys, and it goes back to what we've been talking about this whole episode, is the lack of professionalism. These guys are literally running around. I had guys leaving my house to go quote jobs from the West End to the East End, and they just drop everything, go quote a job, leave a first-year apprentice at my house. They're not organized. They're flying by the seat of their pants. And it comes down to the cleanliness of the job sites. I mean, we get back charged if we leave a little piece of pipe on the floor on a commercial job. These guys would leave a job site like a fucking bomb went off in the place, right? And that's normal. They just expect you to pick up after them. They think that there's a Molly maid coming up sweeping the floors behind them, and it's just common in all residential trades. So I think it's just they've created such bad habits over the years that it's just become the norm. In residential.
Actually, story, and it touches base on this topic. Electricians that I normally go to, and I had to put this, garage. So, normal guy, like I always do, who's very reliable, but he was really busy, right? And he told me, honest, he's like, look, if you can wait 3-4 weeks, because and I respect that. He was upfront, right? If you can wait 3-4 weeks, no problem. I'll get there, and I'll get it done for you like always. And I couldn't wait because the weather is turning, and the kids and everything like that. So I was like, I kind of got to get it done. So I was like, a guy that could come and do this, quickly on the side, somebody that's not too busy. And I got referred to this guy, right? I don't want to name names. My house, again, first impression, very friendly, very knowledgeable. After 5 minutes of talking to this guy, I felt like I've known him for a long time. Obviously, we have a lot of mutual friends, right? So that obviously helps. And that's why I say you never know. You go to quote, never know what door that can open. So I ended up using this guy. Again, 3 kids. My garage was kind of a mess. It's fall. There's kind of leaves everywhere blowing in and out of the garage. You got floor and all that, right? So I had to go up coming on a Sunday to install this heater. So, because I know him through other people, and plus I got cameras, I opened the garage. I'm like, look, I got to go somewhere with the family. If you're done, just let me know. I'll close the garage. If not, I'll be home at this time. Well, sure enough, I got home. He was just wrapping up. And I walked into my garage. Then before he started, wire on the floor, right? And I know electricians, notorious for that, right? And he even picked up the, right? Like the guy swept behind himself. And to a point, brought the kids inside before, I went outside to go offer the guy an espresso or a coffee or something. My wife was like, wow, the garage looks cleaner than before he started, right? The impression, right? Guess what happened? That same night, my wife's friend she needed an electrical. I obviously always refer my guy, but my wife was talking to her friend. The first thing do you have his number? The guy who was just here. She's building a house. She needs electrical done. Because the guy came to do a little $400-500 job, and the way he presented himself and the way he left the site, $1,000 electrical job out of it, right? Keeps saying to people, you never know who you're meeting. You never know who that person knows, who they're connected to, who they could potentially refer you to. So you got to look at every client, right? No matter how big or small the job is, right? You got to as the brand of your company, because you never know what door that's going to open up to. And it might not be tomorrow. It might be next month, right? It might be the second half of the year. It might be next year. Professionalism, the way you carry yourself, the way you leave a site, it's everything. It's absolutely everything in our business, right? Change the norm. And just to touch base on what you guys were talking about before as well, in commercial, in mid-rise, in high-rise, a lot of the time, working for either the developer or the contractor, right? And now who they're working for is obviously their client, which is the person who's flipping the bill, consultants, engineers. So there's a lot of hands that make decisions. So there's a schedule you have to follow. When you say you're coming, you better come, right? If you're leaving garbage, you're going to get back charged. And the problem is in residential, right? Only governing body, right, other than the inspector, is the homeowner. So a lot of times I feel like I know they don't do it on purpose, but I feel like these contractors think that they can get away with it. Okay, I'm going to be there Monday at 8 a.m. That person took half a day off to make sure you're in the house, to do this, to do that. 8 a.m. comes on the Monday. They don't show answering their phone. The homeowner's like, what the hell happened to this guy? Like, I just took half a day off, right? And it gets back to, it's a purpose, but it's almost like you're sending a message. My time's more important than yours into your business. Professional, everything. It's everything. Treat everybody with the utmost respect. And I promise you, just by that little change, see a significant increase in business and in sales.
That's a great story. I love that one. So look, to wrap up this topic, we've been speaking about a lot of, issues and problems that, a lot of contractors face, but, with every issue or problem creates opportunities. So just a quick question for both of you, and Johnny, you probably answered yours, professionalism, but the question is, what are one or two practical things that a contractor could do or change or implement that will help maybe not solve, but drastically improve a lot of the issues that we were just talking about?
Use job table.
Easy. That was my answer.
Well, no, listen, again, it doesn't have to be job table. Implement some kind of software in your day to day, because all those things that Johnny said are great. That's amazing. They should be done. But the reality of it is, a lot of those guys, they're not slobs, they're not bad people. They're doing those things, and they've earned those bad habits because they're acting like chickens with their heads cut off, because they literally have no time to think about anything but working in the business rather than on the business. They're consumed by it. So it creates bad habits, bad practice, and again, it's just you become very inefficient by implementing some kind of software. And again, it doesn't have to be job table. It's not a plug for it. It's the reality. If you take the time and you digitize everything, you have everything in the palm of your hand, you're in control. You know what quotes are out, what needs to be invoiced, what's late, what's not, where your guys are, the job costing to the penny on every single project, your reports for your accountants, timesheets, you name it. It's in the palm of your hand, or a laptop at home, whatever it is in your office. You cannot be productive on a job site if you don't have these things in place. So that would be the number one thing. And then, the second thing I would say, just how you represent yourself. The first thing, the first handshake, and just looking into somebody's eyes and shaking their hands is the first step to gaining that person as a customer. The next is the quotation, and then getting the job done professionally in a timely manner, and then getting the follow-up calls for more work. If you present yourself well, if you're professional and you do a great job, they're going to keep coming back to you every single time. And the last thing is the consistency, because we all know in construction, you're only as good as your last job. So that's great. You knocked it out of the park one time. That doesn't mean shit if you fuck up on the next job. So it's maintaining that consistency. And that's where the software comes in, is creating these good habits for the long haul.
Yeah. That's a good point. And, it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's what I always say. And, I know this is not a pitch or a plug for JobTable, but, if anyone listening, jobtable.com, you can sign up for a free 14-day trial. Check it out yourself. It's not a plug, but just sign up. Anyways, so moving on. Next topic that I wanted to go through. So this past week, or last week on Friday, Charlie had a really, really amazing, what I think is a very powerful and very important rant that you posted on Instagram. And for those who didn't check it out, I want to actually cue it up here and play it, because there's a lot of important points in this clip that I actually want to discuss and kind of break apart that I think will be very, very valuable. So let me cue it up here. Give me a second. It's a couple of minutes. I'm going to speed it up just so we can get through it, but here it is.
Happy Friday, everyone. I wanted to share a quick story about something very cool that happened to me a few months back. We were looking to do some hiring, looking to hire approximately 3 to 5 guys, depending on what we could find out there. And we got about 15 applications that came in. Out of the 15, we told about 5 of them to come in the next day for a job interview. The following morning, about 30 minutes before the first one was scheduled, a gentleman came in who was not one of the 5 that we had selected for the interview, but was one of the 15 that had applied and I had spoken to on the phone. And not everyone was selected for whatever reason, just kind of maybe just didn't blow us away on the phone, and we don't want too many people coming in. But this gentleman did, and he walked in, he shook my hand, looked me in the eyes, and just kind of demanded that I interview him. He said, "Look, I know you didn't tell me to come in for an interview, but I'm here. I want the opportunity to work with you guys. I'm 39 years old. I have 3 kids. I'm married. This is something that I know I need to do. I need a career, and I want to be the best plumber that you've ever seen." So needless to say, he kind of caught me off guard and took me by surprise. But I really liked what he did. So I said, look, man, I'll think about it over the weekend. Let's touch base Monday, Tuesday. That's when I was going to make my decision anyways, to hire the guys. So the weekend came and passed, and then he actually showed up to the office again on the Monday. He said, look, I'm here again. I just want to show you that, I'm the right guy to hire. I don't have any experience, but I'm going to fucking give you 110%. I don't care if my foreman's half my age. There's no ego here. I just want the opportunity to prove it to you. And I hired the fucking guy on the spot because I just thought that his determination was second to none. I'd never seen anything like it. And we'll just call him George for the sake of the story. But George, you're a fucking legend, man. And there's not a doubt in my mind that you're going to rise through the ranks faster than anybody. And you're going to kill it in the industry. But it just goes to show you that if you're an owner, I will take hard work and dedication and work ethic over skill any day, especially when it's somebody that's got no experience whatsoever, just getting into the trades. And to all the employees out there or wannabe employees trying to break into the trades, you need to fucking stand out, okay? There's too much competition out there for you to just walk into an office and slide your resume across the secretary's table and ask to, to have a look at it. It's not gonna cut it, man. You gotta walk in and you gotta rise above the rest. Okay, guys, have a wonderful weekend.
All right. So that lot is in there. Such a good rant, such a great story. A lot in there about hiring, but what I wanted to focus on, the whole idea, or I guess question, what's more important? Is it work ethic or is it skill? And I think this is it's a interesting question in construction, because I feel like every contractor that we speak to across Canada, across the US, seems to be having the same issue when it comes to finding and hiring good guys, skilled guys. I think it's an interesting question, specifically in the trades, in the construction business. What is more important given the shortage of good quality guys? Is it still skill or is it work ethic? So, Charlie, it was your rant. Dive into that. Why do you think a work ethic is more important than skill?
That rant that I did was one of many examples that I've had over the last 15 years of running iPlum. That was just the most recent. One of my favorites, though. That definitely that gentleman was one of my favorites. I have another one. It's kind of similar to it, but he's like 4 years in now. And when we hired this guy, I'm not going to name his name, but at the beginning, nobody wanted to work with him. Like, to the point that I had guys saying, like, this guy's fucking, like, and I'm like, is he that bad? I had one guy, my foreman, who's been our longest employee with us. And he looked at me and he said, I will take that guy every single day of the week. And I asked him why. I said, nobody wants him. Why do you want him? And he goes, he's here an hour before the job starts. And he never wants to leave. He'll work 24 hours if I ask him to. Yeah, he's a very slow learner, but he's the hardest worker I've ever seen in my entire life. If I gave this guy a shovel and told him to dig to China, I could come back in 2 weeks and I'm pretty confident there'd be a tunnel to China. Okay, like that's how hard this guy would work. Fast forward 4 years, he started moving around from foreman to foreman just to kind of, get some exposure. And then sure enough, foreman by foreman started telling me, no, why are you taking him away from him? I want to keep him. I want to keep him. I want to keep him. Because although it did take him a little bit longer to learn, it just look at it like a blank canvas. He came in with no experience. It did take him a bit more time to learn, but we were able to kind of teach him the way we wanted to teach him. We had to bear with him, be patient, but now he's literally one of the best guys that we have, and he's only a fourth-year apprentice. This guy, he's now skilled. He still has the work ethic, and he's one of the hardest workers I've ever encountered. So to answer your question, I will take hard work and work ethic over skill any day. I've had guys come in here with 20 years experience. Okay, they've literally rolled out a red carpet of jobs that they've done, and so I've done this. I've worked industrial, commercial, big pipe, small pipe, soldered, threaded, you fucking name it, I've done it. And the beautiful thing about construction, that's a lot different than a desk job, is you can't lie what you can and can't do in construction. I don't need to see your resume. I take your word for it because we're going to find out within 3 to 4 days whether you're telling me the truth or you're lying. So it's not in your benefit to lie to me because you're gonna lose your job. I'm gonna find out right away. So you're just wasting my time and you're wasting your time. But I think that's one of the most beautiful things about working with your hands and a skilled trade is you can't hide who you are. So I've had guys that have legitimately been plumbers for 20 years. They've done all kinds of jobs, and second day on the job, they make a leak on a half-inch pipe. For anybody that doesn't know anything about plumbing, soldering is something that we do on a very regular basis, and half-inch pipe is one of the smallest sizes of pipe that you can solder. So it's a very, very rookie mistake to make. And that's just one example of many that I've had. So you could have 20 years of experience and skill, but you could have also been doing it wrong for 20 years, which is also very common. So I'd rather have a guy that we can treat as a blank canvas, bring him up through the ranks, have him experience different types of foremans too, which is very important. You have not every plumber is the same. You have guys that are faster than others, and the slower guys may be more meticulous and cleaner and work on more high-end fixtures and custom homes, things like that, where the faster guys, they need to move around. They're just in that rhythm, and then they're the ones that they'll do your industrials, and they're machines. They put up pipe after pipe after pipe. So for a kid to be able to go experience and learn from every single one to become the best he can be, you can't do that with a guy that's already set in his ways. That's 10 years deep, 15 years deep, and has developed all kinds of bad habits.
Yeah. Johnny, ethic or skill? Where are you at?
Like ethics, right? Because skill can be taught. A lot of time ethics cannot, right? Like Charlie said, a lot of people are stuck in their ways. Now people can change, right? But that's, has all the work ethic in the world. He just doesn't have the skill. He's showing up. You can rely on him, the skill, right? So a lot of times I always say, Charlie went on, right? We both interviewed this guy. When that guy left, I was like, man, I like that guy. When he showed up again, I literally gave Charlie the look like, right? Like, and look, I say it about myself, right? When I was going through my apprenticeship, I went through a couple of companies, and I never for more than a day, right? And I remember going to trade school or talking to other people in the industry. They're like, "Oh man, can you get me in, or can you talk to the boss?" What I would do is I'd truck, I put on my work. Right? I knew what time everybody started, what time people were getting to the shop, and I would just show up to a shop. Oh, can I speak to the? Yeah, it's me. Can I help you? It's like, yeah, are you looking for anybody to work? Yeah. What can you do? I'm a second-year apprentice. This is what I could do. Yeah, we can use some. Can you start? Well, I have my tools in my truck and I have my boots on. You know how many people used to look at me and be like, wow, like you don't get that, right? And this is what I say to everybody. If you're going to start a company, right, this is not a job. This is a career. I tell this to all my employees. If you're looking for a job, you've come to the wrong place. If you're looking for a career, right, you've come to the right place. You work everything. Show up every day, give your 110%, right? And let me post the question back to you, Costa. Somebody who's not in the trades, right? If you have a guy that's a hard worker, and you can tell he's giving his all, he shows up every day that he says he's going to show up, and you could tell his skill is not at 100%, right? But he's every day, even if he made a mistake, he's coming back, he's fixing it. Would you take that over somebody who's very skilled, but when he tells you he's showing up, right, he doesn't show up, you're calling him, he's not picking up the phone, right? You as a homeowner, who would you select?
Of course. I mean, look, although I'm not in the trades, but yeah, someone who's hired well over 100, 200 employees in business, work ethic, I feel is innate in humans in a way. Like I feel like you either have it or you don't. Whereas skill, like that, it can be taught, it can be learned. And so speaking to three business owners here, if you're someone that is relying solely on your skill, it will only get you so far. And we actually, interesting enough, we posed a poll on our social media about this as well. And I think it was like 100% work ethic. So, you know, I was hoping there would be some kind of debate here, but we're definitely on the same page. And I feel like every other business owner, for the most part, is aligned with us here. So, yeah.
Our first question, right? From the quote you got, right? It's all on the way you present yourself, right? It can take away from our podcast and us speaking is any business owner, you're an electrician, you're this, you know, you got to look at it like your chips are all in on your business, right? So get something that recognizes yourself. Get something where you can provide a quote to a client, right? That looks professional. That's, you know, that they can read. You know, right? Be a man of your word. That is like another big one. Be a man of your word. If you say you're going to do it, do it. If you say you're going to be there on that day, be there on that day at that time. And I get it. Things happen, right? Now, if something happens, right, notify them ahead of time. Like people are understanding, hey, you know, this, I got to run. But don't tell people, you know, if you're supposed to be somewhere at 8 a.m., you know, tell people, you know, at 10:30 a.m., you know, like notify them before, right? And this all comes down to the way you present yourself, right? Get something that, you know, a schedule, a planner, something. Organize yourself. Be a man of your word. Stick by that schedule. You know what, Costa? That's one thing that, you know, in these podcasts about me and Charlie and, you know, us owning the contracting, like a construction. But one thing I got to give to you, and me and Charlie talk about it all the time, you live by your schedule, right? If something's your schedule, it's happening. You're there. You're doing it, right? If somebody's asking you to do something, you need to check your schedule, right? If it's not in the schedule, you don't have time for it, right? Or you're going to schedule a time for it. That's the way you got to carry yourself. Manage your time, manage your business, be professional, present yourself well, and be a man of your word.
Just to put things into perspective, I was just actually looking, we started hiring again. So anybody that's listening that's an employee, because I think that's equally important as a conversation about the owners and hiring. If you're an employee trying to break into the trades, we recently put on an ad to hire and we got over 35 resumes of all kids who just finished their pre-apprenticeship class. So 0 experience on site, just a pre-apprenticeship class for plumbing. 35 students just graduated that are looking for a job. Just so you guys know, from the perspective of an owner, you guys all look exactly the same to me. Nothing stands out. You guys are just names on a list, okay? So when I call every single one of you guys, be the one that stands out. Whether you show up at the door, whether you shake my hand firmly, you look into my eyes, you promise me you're going to be the hardest worker I've ever seen in your life. Whatever it is you need to do, or else you're just going to be another sheep in the flock and you're not going to stand out and I'm not going to give you a second look. If a guy walked in here right now and said, I never went to pre-apprenticeship class, I have 0 experience, but I'm going to be the fucking best you've ever seen in your life, all those 35 guys I just applied are out the window and I'm going to hire that guy on the spot. So keep that in mind when you're looking for a job.
Love it. Love it. Great message. What else, boys? Anything else on your mind?
No. Yeah. This is the rebranded podcast. We're all 3 of us are extremely excited to kick this off. So tune in every week. It's only going to get better and better.
Love it. I want to add one thing here. And again, we mentioned Job Table obviously a few times here, but I do want to just mention one thing. If you're a contractor listening and you are looking for a software to use, maybe considering a new software, check out jobtable.com, especially this month. We have our best promo of the year going on. For the first 3 months, it's only $9 per month for the first 3 months. And regular price is only $49 a month USD. So, and there's no contract. So just wanted to mention that because if you are considering, now is a really good time to potentially try it out. And you can sign up for a free trial on our website. Check it out. With that being said, boys, it was a blast as always. Stay tuned for next week, and thank you to all for watching or listening.
Bye,
Peace.
guys.